Thank you for joining us tonight on KBCP News. Our special report tonight comes to us directly from Bellarmine College Prep, where our special correspondents are investigating the problem of gender inequality in education, at home and abroad. As you all know, the 21st century is rife with conflict. However, one conflict that often goes unnoticed in the modern age is educational equality. It's been a long-standing tradition across the world that men should be the person in the family to pursue educational opportunities. However, this tradition is rapidly changing. Women across the world are standing up for their right to an equal education. People like Malala Yousafzai have stood up against oppression and often been hurt in their struggle. Malala was born on July 12, 1997 in Pakistan. As a child, she became an advocate for girls' education, which made her a target of the Taliban. On October 9, 2012, a gunman shot Malala when she was traveling home from school. She was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in 2013, and in 2014, she was nominated again and won, becoming the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Although they're not always shot, women activists who have tried to stand up for educational rights have met severe backlash, even in America. Those in the Middle East are under intense fear of repercussions from the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and other armed groups. However, the Middle East is not the only place where gender disparity in education resides. Even at home in America, there is a traditional sentiment that women should pursue lighter degrees and stay at home as an at-home mom to support the family. I hope these following interviews serve to shed light on the subject and offer insights that our viewers may not have had themselves.
How were women in your family encouraged to pursue education and careers?
Yeah, well, so I come from a family of strong women, and while my father probably makes more money, my mom definitely runs the family, but she's also worked most of my life. She was a teacher. She worked for a church, and now is working for the Archdiocese of Boston. So the culture of my family growing up was definitely one where men and women were both encouraged to work, both encouraged to have careers. My sisters both went to top colleges. They were both very intelligent, and I had some big shoes to fill. Went to top colleges and were both encouraged to get jobs immediately afterwards.
Well, my mom, she went to college and stuff. She was pursued by her mom and dad, who were both immigrants. She decided to become a housewife and help raise my family, so my brother, sister, and me. And my sister currently goes to St. Francis, if that helps.
So I definitely know my mom my mom was encouraged to pursue a college education, as well on my dad's side of the family. What? Sorry. As well on my dad's side of the family, I know as well his sister and mother were as well encouraged to pursue college educations and then employment afterwards. The exact employment opportunities, I guess they're pushed to. I don't know though, because I haven't really asked them about that. Yeah, sorry.
Alright. So I currently live with just my mother and my older brother. And my mother has most of a college degree. She has been encouraged to pursue education, and she is a very learned person. Although it didn't come more at school, it came later on with professional degrees. She moved more into financial management recently, and during that movement in her life, she did a lot of work towards pursuing an education, that kind of thing. Historically, my family, for generations past, at least on my mother's side, hasn't been to college too often. It's not really the culture of the family. However, when I speak from my father's side, they are very well-educated people. My father's sister was encouraged to go to school just right alongside him, just the exact same as him. She was very brilliant. She ended up going to Cambridge University, so very prestigious college. Actually, a better school than my father went to. So at least on the paternal side of my family, from the English perspective, the girls were encouraged to go to school.
Okay, so I'm from India, Calcutta, so I did my education there. And my family, they do not differentiate between genders. So I have like many cousins, I have a sister, and so most of them are girls, and they are actually more educated than the boys. So they have all gotten into PhD programs, and the boys, they are doing masters in business, or they are doing engineering or physics, but the girls and boys, they are not differentiated at all in this generation. And even the girls are pursuing like more ambitious career options. Okay, so
Are you aware of, how are you aware of problems facing women's education today across the world?
Yeah, you know, it's a big issue. Many cultures, particularly more impoverished cultures across the world, tend to minimalize the education of women. And to me, that's something that's it's something we got past kind of in the Western traditions, kind of gotten past the, well, not entirely. That's a good question. How am I aware? It's something that I know happens regularly, particularly in more impoverished, less developed countries. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's it.
Today across the world?
I mean, we just did the human trafficking thing, so yes.
Problems facing women's education today across the world?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the class that we have has definitely showed a lot about it. But I definitely knew about a lot of the struggles, like the Middle East, for example, like girls, and like for example, places like Afghanistan and Pakistan and stuff getting like attacked, as well as some places in like India and China where like it's really hard for, I guess, women to kind of step out of traditional gender roles. I definitely think there is still a lot of push though in more developed countries in Europe and stuff still for women to kind of stay as like the caregiver and provider of the family. I definitely think there has been not enough attention though paid to kind of the problem across the world, because you hear about stuff like terrorist attacks and stuff which are bad inherently, but a lot of the stuff that's like questioning long-term issues that haven't been solved, like gender equality and education, haven't been given enough airtime.
The world. Alright, well I think you could use, from our American perspective, and what's in our recent media history, you could use the example of the Islamic State, of course. Some terrible things going on there. Women not being encouraged to pursue an education. Also Boko Haram, with meaning literally education is forbidden. That's in the recent memory of the world as well. The world as a total, I'd say, is doing pretty well. I'd say there are certainly some much more liberal places that are doing a lot better than even the United States. I use the example of Scandinavia. You have initiatives in Norway and Sweden which are pursuing women's rights at a brilliant pace. Unfortunately, we also have places like Central Africa and those kind of places that, one, aren't talked about too much, and two, still have the issue of women's education as a major problem today.
Do you believe that?
It's in surrounding countries like Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and Nepal, there's still a bias, like sometimes. And also I'm from the urban part of India, so the rural parts, still there is a bias. Like sometimes the women, they do household activities and the guys go ahead into education. So that's, there are some.
Breaks and talking to each other. Alright. Do you believe that America does a good job providing gender equality in education?
I do. I feel like in our country today there are a number of there are actually more women valedictorians than there are men valedictorians, and there are more women in higher education than there have been over the last several decades. So I believe that culturally in the United States, women are being encouraged to pursue higher education, pursue their own careers, which I think is a positive thing.
Do you believe that America does a good job providing gender equality in education?
I mean, from what we see, yes, but deep down, like, hey, I don't think so. There's I feel like there's a lot more, there's a lot more stuff that's going on beneath ground, so to speak, and I feel like we're not doing a very good job to help that.
If you were living in a different country during the Middle Ages, do you think women in your family and community would be provided equal opportunities?
Well, I'd say no. I would say that it depends on the region, but back in the olden days, as we think of it, women weren't really given opportunities in any place of the world. Granted, there were some more enlightened societies. You could look at the Middle East, you could look at the Far East, where they had thriving cultures, but really women weren't given that same opportunity. If you look at ancient China and Japan, they were still considered housewives or subservient to men. Same in the golden age of Islam in the Middle East. They were still very subservient, even though they didn't have to put up with issues that affect third world nations as we think of it today. They weren't still provided the same rights and provided opportunities for education. So no. I'd say no.
If you were living in
Not as far as I know. Yeah, no. I don't. No, I think they had a mindset that men are strong because of the physical attributes, but there's also being strong of mind too, and I don't think they looked at that.
Okay. So let me talk about my mom and my grandmom. So my mom has a bachelor's. All my aunts, they have bachelor's degree, and some of them have master's degree. And my grandmom, she was a high school grad. So I can talk about the past 3 generations. They are all high school and college grads. But before that, it was not much so. So in early 1800s, 1900s, there was a bias.
If you were living in a different country today, do you think women in your family and community would be provided those same opportunities?
Well, again, I think it depends on which country you mean when you say a different country. I think other Western countries similarly do a good job providing the right opportunities for women, and other modernized countries. I'm thinking even of places like Turkey, like Indonesia. These are solid progressive countries. But there are some countries that I would consider to be backwards that believe that it should be a top-down government mandate that women stay in the home and that women are not allowed to become educated because it would be pointless in their development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would be provided equal opportunities?
Well, I come from Croatia, and it's still a more male-based society. There's equality for women and stuff, but women are perceived to be the caretakers of the family, and my mom is also our caretaker. She's a housewife, and it's just the way I was raised to believe women should help raise the children, although they should get equal rights. So they kind of have 2 duties.
Alright, now I'm going to ask a different question.
I definitely think areas, I guess, in a lot of stuff is changing. For example, you may think China isn't as progressive on, however, there are a lot of women in China pursuing educational opportunities. So I definitely think it goes on a country by country basis. I know in places I think it's Pakistan, where people, girls going to school are threatened at gunpoint and sometimes killed for trying to pursue educational opportunities. However, there's some where it's just kind of quietly discouraged, which I think is a lot of the same struggles that exist in the Middle Ages and now come through in forms of tradition and stuff, which still kind of present the same problems as they were in the Middle Ages. I think it's a very small percentage of the countries really have equal and better, completely better opportunities than they did during the Middle Ages.
Ding.
I'd like to thank our audience for joining us today. And as always, we will be closing on a specific principle of Catholic social teaching. Today's segment relates to gender inequality, and so I would like to focus on the Catholic social teaching of rights and responsibilities. Human rights must be protected. Every person has a fundamental right to life and what is needed, including food, shelter, clothing, employment, healthcare, and education. With these rights comes a responsibility to one another, to our families, and to the larger society to uphold these rights. Again, thank you for joining us today. Have an awesome weekend, and as always, go Bells!